And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited. And as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Hey, and if you caught the program over the past few weeks, we know we've been cruising around in the RV bunker, my wife, my son, and I, exploring Colorado. We spent a little over 3 weeks in Colorado. Very beautiful place. I love the mountains. But we have now just landed in Red River, New Mexico, a little bit south of the border. In fact, I'm parked right on the Red River. That Red River is going to eventually get to you guys in Texas if you're listening in Texas. I'm just looking out the window, this clear, beautiful water. I love it here. I absolutely love it. But today what I'm going to do is reach back across to Colorado. I want to bring a guest on that is in Colorado, enjoying that beautiful state full time while investing where it makes sense. You've heard us say it, live where you want, invest where it makes sense. So without further ado, I want to bring Kara onto the show. Kara, how are you today?
I am great, Andy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you very much for joining me. Now, I know you're a newer member. We're going to get to your background. I want to set the stage for the listeners so they know where you're coming from. If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about where you were before, what you were doing career-wise, and what life looks like right now.
Sure. Well, I am a native Texan, so born and raised there, and worked for a large national home builder in sales and project management, and then in late 2019, had the opportunity to go after a promotion and relocate here to Denver, Colorado. So my husband and I thought, no better time than the present for a new adventure. So we packed up our 3 young children and moved across a couple of states to Denver in February of 2020. And then we all know what happened just a few short weeks after that, and the world turned upside down, and COVID really changed things for us. So that was a real adventure, and my new job was very demanding. And as many of us know, construction was still considered an essential business, and so we kept working and plugging along. And so I was putting in really long hours, 60 plus hours a week, in addition to trying to run the home life, and it was very challenging, and I was really burning the candle at both ends and getting really burnt out, and so I was thinking, what's next? What am I going to do? Because I can't keep this up, forever. And I really felt like I was missing out on a lot of things with my family because there was always so much work to be done. And so I was really lucky, to have a friend that mentioned Lifestyles Unlimited, and then, just started looking into that and doing research and asking around, and the rest is history, I guess you can say.
Now, are you still with that home builder, or have you stepped away from that?
I have stepped away. Unfortunately, not because I have replaced my income with real estate yet, although that is the eventual plan. But yes, in March of this year, in March of 2022, I made the decision to leave that home builder so that I could focus more on the family and on, real estate investing full time.
Yeah, very good. I mean, burning the candle at both ends with 3 young children. I have 1, and I know how hard that can be. I can't imagine with 3 and in a new location away from family. I don't know about you. I don't have any relatives near me in Dallas to help us out with the kid. Are you essentially insulated there in Denver, Colorado with you and your husband and your family?
We are. And of course, moving here right before COVID hit, really, I would say, prevented, our ability to build that network and develop, those relationships and friendships that we probably would have, more quickly had people been socializing and the world been kind of operating as usual. And yes, we left a huge network of family and friends, grandparents, aunts and uncles, all of that back in Texas. And so it just made things that much harder, to not have those people that village, to help us with these wonderful, rambunctious children of ours.
Fill in the blank. I have a few choice words from time to time. So you're in Denver, and when did you hear about Lifestyles? When did you become a member?
So I was having a phone conversation with one of my best friends who lives in Houston, and doing maybe a little bit of complaining about my current situation, and just again how unsustainable it was, and she mentioned another friend of ours that we went to high school with, who is a member of Lifestyles Unlimited, and she said, you could look into this thing that, our friend Amy is doing. I'm not really sure how legitimate it is. She said, it sounds kind of weird to me, because my friend I was talking to is not involved in Lifestyles. But she said, it sounds like something, that you might be interested in. And so I reached out to our mutual friend via Facebook and said, hey, tell me more about this Lifestyles Unlimited, and is it real, and all of that. And she said, oh, yes, it's very real. And she's got family, that's involved in the organization as well. And so, they're very bought in and big believers. And so it really helped me to have a personal, connection with a real person, that I knew before and outside of Lifestyles, to really make that leap of faith, because otherwise I probably would have been skeptical for longer and taken longer, to make that commitment, to join and to start becoming active. But even so, I joined actually in the summer of 2021 and did the 2-day online, down in my basement. I hired a babysitter to come over a few nights over the course of 2 weeks, and did that class down in my basement, kind of hiding from my children.
I'm your host, Andy Webb, and I'm joined today by Kara. Kara, as we heard, is up in Denver, Colorado. Kara, I didn't quite get up to Denver. We turned left, headed west on 50, so we kind of split the state down the middle. And now we're down in Red River, New Mexico, and I thank you very much for coming on today. You and I chatted a little bit before the show, and I think you're a great example for a lot of people out there, because there are so many people that hear the radio show, see our Facebook page, maybe watch the case studies online even, but they're not quite ready to take that step, and I think it's important to get started, and you just recently started. So I think you're a very good case study, good example for folks that do need to take action, and especially those folks that are out of state or away from some of the more favorable markets like you are. So you're in your basement, you're hiding from the kids, you're doing that, what we call the 2-day financial freedom seminar. Sounds like you were doing that in the evening over 4 days. That's an option as well. Tell us a little bit about that session or those sessions, and what some of your big takeaways were as you sat through those seminars.
Gosh, well, the big, there were so many, and I could pull out my little workbook and all of my notes, but I think the long-term ones that have stuck are just the ideas and the ability to leverage some investment that we already have in equity in our current home, and really that the idea of having your money work for you, and not having kind of lazy money sitting around, because my husband and I have been pretty good savers as far as the traditional retirement vehicles and the personal homes that we have purchased and lived in. We've always done well when we've sold those, and but our money really wasn't working for us. I felt like I was doing all of the work, and the money was just sitting there on the couch with its feet propped up, drinking a cold beer. And so I thought, well, that's not really fair. Let's do a role reversal here and see what we can do to put this money to work, so that I don't have to work quite so much.
Yeah, good thinking. I like that phrase, lazy money. My money's sitting up drinking a beer when I should be doing that. And hey, when you're cruising around Red River, New Mexico, maybe now's the time. Hey. So you sat through the 2-day, and on the 2-day, day one, what do we talk about? Single family. And day two, we get into multifamily. You actually have jumped into both. You've done a multifamily passive investment, and you're also in the process of renovating 2 single family houses. We'll get into those. I'm curious, what made you decide to do both multifamily and single family at the same time?
Well, good question. So when I was doing the 2-day down in the basement, I was excited about both single family and multifamily, but realistically, I really didn't think that I would have the time to do even the little bit of kind of upfront work that it took to get a single family home, to find it, to rehab it, and to get it rented into a cash flowing rental. Because I just didn't have any extra hours or minutes of my days, nights, or weekends. And so I just thought, single family is probably not really going to work for me. Passive is less effort, on my side. So passive is really probably what's going to work. So I started taking the classes, and a little bit of a type B in me, A+ student, needed to take, I wanted to do all the classes before I made any moves or any decisions, which in hindsight probably shouldn't have been quite so concerned about the classes and done them, as I was also looking into investments and, kind of alongside each other. But then in March, when I left my job, my W-2 job, it was the week before the expo in Houston. And so all of a sudden I had much more time, and I also had a need for some monthly income. And so in going to Expo, I went there with a different focus than I had originally planned, and started focusing on how to be a single-family investor from Colorado, and would that work in Colorado, or would I need to look outside of my market in order to find single-family homes that would be the best investments for me. So since March, I have gone into one multifamily investment passively that's located in Houston, and then I've also purchased the 2 single-family homes that I'm in the process of rehabbing and fixing up so they can be cash flowing rentals, and those are also just outside of Houston.
Yeah, very good. And I'll tell you, I asked the question, years ago. My wife and I joined back in 2012 in March, and it's been over a decade now. And we went squarely down the single family path. And quite frankly, I'm kicking myself a little bit for not having done what you did and done the multifamily parallel. We're now in multifamily as passives, and I'm loving it because, like you said, I don't have to have the lazy money out there sitting around doing nothing. I'm getting to be the lazy guy now, essentially, while it's working for me in sundry apartment investments, not to mention the single family houses. So you found capital. You found capital that you could leverage. You thought you don't really have the time, but we're going to hear in a later segment more about those single family houses. So let's hold that on the back burner for now, and how you figured out you can leverage other resources to take those down remotely. Great concept for a lot of people out there. Let's talk a little bit about that multifamily. What were your criteria? How did you find this particular investment?
Well, I really wanted to feel comfortable with it being my first multifamily investment. And another reason, I feel like at some point in the future, I might want to IRO or be a lead investor. And so I wanted to start learning and getting exposed to, the communication to passive investors and really just what the operations of a multifamily investment looked like. So again, same friend that originally told me about Lifestyles happened to be neighbors a few years ago with a couple that are lead investors with Lifestyles. And so as I, continued to talk with her about, kind of this transition and me getting more involved with the Lifestyles network, she said, oh, well, my old neighbors are, they do the apartment thing, is what she called it, the apartment thing with Lifestyles. And so I got their name and reached out to them and exchanged a few emails. And then, lo and behold, a couple of months later, they had a multifamily investment offering. And so I had been looking at other deals as well, but I really liked the personal connection with Corbin and Priscilla that investment offered. And so I thought, well, no better place to start than with people that you know and a market. I went to high school in Houston. My parents still live in Houston, and so I'm pretty comfortable with the Houston market and the location of this apartment complex. And so I just felt like it was meant to be.
Yeah, it sounds like it. There are many happy coincidences throughout the story that I'm hearing. It's great that you got in touch with your friend who had the friend that was in Lifestyles, Amy, and now your friend's neighbors. I mean, it's a small world, and it's great. You have a unique set of connections there that you're leveraging. Not everybody has those, and we have ways of getting connected, even if you are remote. So if you're not in Kara's situation with all of these links and these connections out there, that is not a problem, because we still do things virtually. We do things remotely. There are ways to get in touch. We'll talk about that when we come back from the break.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
We went from 100% live to 100% virtual. And the funny thing is that nobody wants to go back to work now they work from home, right? So now my members are like, well, Del, we want to keep those virtual things open because now I know all the people in Miami and I know all the people in Chicago. I know all the people now know each other from all over the country because of these virtual events.
The free workshop, How to Retire in 5 Years or Less, is online. Go to lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Andy Webb, coming to you from Red River, New Mexico, looking at the river right now, looking at the beautiful pines that are climbing the side of the mountain, which I'm hoping to be doing here very soon when we're done speaking with Kara. Kara's my guest. She's in Denver, Colorado, and she just got started recently, summer of 2021, as a member at Lifestyles Unlimited, as we heard. And she's got a fascinating story, how she's gotten connected with the organization and how she got connected. We just heard about that with her first apartment investment. If you missed any part of the show, go to lifestylesunlimited.com, click on the radio button. These will be archived there. And if you are new to real estate investing, and if you are outside of one of our main markets or one of those Sunbelt states where it makes sense, for example, to be a single family investor, we're going to hear next how Kara has been investing in single family houses in markets that make sense from afar. Now, Kara, I teased at the end of the last segment, we want to talk about how you have been connecting remotely. And I got connected to you by way of Tyler, and I had a show with Tyler a few weeks ago. He's the ambassador, also in Denver, Colorado, around in that area. Can you tell us a little bit about how that ambassador program has helped you as you've gone through the process here?
Absolutely. The ambassador program has been really helpful. Tyler was one of the first people that I reached out to after I joined, and the first person that I met here locally that was involved with Lifestyles Unlimited. So he immediately started inviting me to the monthly meetups, and I started meeting other members. And so it's been a great opportunity to network and get to know other folks who are either currently doing the same thing that I'm doing or are learning alongside me. And it's really exciting because I feel like our local group is growing, and we're about to start seeing some more activity out of the local members here, either as lead investors, putting together apartment deals, or as, single family investors like myself, who are looking to buy those single family homes, probably not locally, but, out of state. And again, it'll just be great to compare notes and share experiences and lessons learned with each other.
Yeah, we heard earlier you moved to Colorado just before COVID, and that really made it difficult for you guys to build just your personal network. Well, this ambassador and the program we have outside of our main markets, when I say main markets, that's where we're headquarters in Houston, Texas, right? We've got a brick and mortar office in Dallas, in Central Texas, in Phoenix. And as we grow, we have a lot of people that volunteer. Our ambassadors, they are volunteers, and they want to build that community so that you aren't alone, so that you can compare notes and you can get those leads. And hey, who's your vendor? Who are you using in Houston for your renovations? and so on. And the ambassadors are throughout the state. So if you're catching the program in one of the other states, if you're in Portland, Oregon, we have ambassadors there, Seattle, Washington, California, just all over the place. So you can send me an email, askandy@luinc.com. I can help you understand that a little bit better if you need to. Or, Kara, you mentioned the expo. The Wealth and Passive Income Expo is going to be this February 2023, actually in Irving this year. It was in Houston last year. All the ambassadors come out for that as well. So if you want to meet them, that would be a good place to come as well. And there's more information on our website there. Now, you're doing single family. We heard about multifamily. You just put your money in. You wait for that quarterly distribution when those start to come in. Let's talk about single family, because that's where a lot of people start. You found some capital. Not everybody has a lot, and that's a really, really good place to begin if you do need to build that capital. So you bought some houses. Not in Colorado, not a good market, I gather. Can you tell us, can you do a single family in Colorado, or is that just too pricey?
Well, right now, I still feel like my capital goes a lot further in a market like Houston. So I probably could purchase something in Colorado, but it would be kind of all my eggs in one basket for, the same kind of returns. And so I would prefer to invest in a handful of homes instead of just one or two homes like I would have to do here in Colorado. Plus things here that are affordable, price-wise, are much older than most of what we see in the Texas markets. And so, we're talking about things that are built in the early part of the 20th century, which just presents a whole other set of challenges.
And for the listener, not to say you can't do it, we have one of our single family mentors out of Dallas has her, I can't remember now, 1908 house, I believe was the year. So there are more experienced investors that are doing that. That might not be the thing for you if you're just starting out. So you said, hey, let's go to Houston. Tell us, you're in Denver, Colorado. How did you find those single family houses, and what were your criteria? Maybe give us a little bit of a framework around those purchases.
Sure. So I connected with a couple of the Lifestyles realtors at the expo back in March. Specifically Jennifer, I met her in person and had a great conversation and really felt like I clicked with her. And so I got on the email list and started seeing those email offerings, come across my desk. And so, started looking at those and asking questions, before I tagged one. And eventually, was able to get one of the first tags on a property, and then we just kind of went from there with inspections and, of course, more questions and bids from vendors, and one thing led to another, and we closed on it, and now we're trying to turn it around.
And you are operating remotely. You're in Denver, Colorado. This house is in Houston. I think you did 2 down there, or have 2 underway. Can you tell us now, since you are remote, how did you go about building the team to handle those renovations, to do that inspection you talked about, and so on?
I did it just like Lifestyles teaches us to. I leveraged the vendor network and the mentors and the other members, just asking for referrals, reading reviews, and, picking up the phone and calling those, inspectors and general contractors and foundation companies. And everyone has been really great to work with. And I think that there's a lot of value in that vendor network, because they know that Lifestyles members talk to each other. And so if they do good work for one member, they're going to get referred and they're going to earn more business from other members, and vice versa. If they drop the ball and they let somebody down or leave them high and dry, word's probably going to get around about that too. And then their business is going to suffer. So it was really great to be able to do that. And thank goodness for modern technology. Phone and email are wonderful tools.
Absolutely. Again, we're going back to that theme of network. We heard about how you built your initial network, how you found Lifestyles through your extended connections, and now we're talking about the vendor side of things. Tell us a little bit about the renovations that you're doing on one or both of these houses and how you're staying on top of that through the process.
Well, originally I thought that I wanted to do something not that big and not that involved. And then upon talking with one of our mentors here in Lifestyle, she said, well, to be honest, it's kind of almost the same amount of work, regardless of how big of a lift it is. So you might as well just take on a project and reap the rewards, from an equity capture of something a little bit bigger. So that gave me, some reassurance and some confidence to take on a bigger job. And both of these are, pretty hefty lifts. But I'm using the same general contractor for both homes. I did use two different foundation companies to work on the foundations for both, and two different roofers. But I am using the same general contractor. And again, just a lot of communication. There's a lot of texting. A lot of them like to text. And so, just following up with them appropriately, definitely not bugging them every single day if it's not necessary, but, making sure to check in, every few days and see how the progress is going, either directly with the on-site supervisor or, a member of their team or someone in their office.
I'm your host, Andy Webb. If you have questions, you can email me at askandy@luinc.com. If you missed any of the earlier show, you're going to want to check this out. I'm talking today with Kara. We've heard that she's gotten into a passive investment in an apartment community in Houston, Texas. She's done that remotely. And we're now talking about her two single-family projects that are underway, also in Houston, Texas. She's doing these things remotely. If you're out of state, or maybe you're even in Dallas and want to buy in Houston or San Antonio, you can do that. If you're in Dallas, want to buy in Chattanooga, great market. Check that one out. You can do these things remotely. And Kara, that's kind of what we've been getting into this last segment, is how you have built that team and so on. I'm curious, once you get to the stage and you're rented out, you're done with the renovations, do you plan to self-manage, or will you put a property manager into place?
I plan to self-manage. I will probably utilize a local realtor or a property management company to help me find the residents initially, and hold a couple of open houses or do a tour, go through the lease with the new residents and get that all signed. And typically, realtors will charge, a one-time fee for that. But then after that, I anticipate doing the ongoing management myself. Hopefully there won't be a whole lot of surprises, because I'm making pretty much everything new, just like Lifestyles teaches us to do. But if things do come up, I'm more than happy to pick up the phone or answer a text or an email, and get a handyman out there, or someone to service something if that's what needs to happen.
And that's all it takes. That really is. I mean, I've been on the road for almost 4 weeks now, I think, mostly in Colorado. We haven't had to deal with a whole lot because, like you said, best product, best price. We go in and fix everything that could break in the next handful of years, and then we stay on top of maintenance as it may occur. And we have those connections so that we can do everything remotely. So yeah, give it a try. And if you decide that doesn't work out, well, plan B is to go to that property manager. Now, I'll tell you, I have a couple of houses near Houston, which are farther from Dallas, where my home base is. And I used a leasing agent as well. Perfectly good thing to do. They're going to take care of that business, get that background, help you through the process. And speaking of process, I'm curious, have you looked through all the documents that we have in our single-family document library on the portal?
Absolutely, and it's a wonderful, wonderful resource. There are so many documents, to choose from, and they've been a great help. I really like checklists and in any kind of list, and so I've been using those to make sure that I cover all my bases and am on the right track, and even spreadsheets that help me keep track of the financials. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. If someone's already put in the time and the effort to make this list or a spreadsheet, then I'm gonna use it.
Yeah, I'm actually in the library right now, and there are documents to help you at any part of the process getting started, right? Evaluating that property, some spreadsheets like you mentioned, due diligence, right? How to evaluate that property once we get it under contract, rehab, the list goes on. I think my favorite document out there, though, and I've used this, is the single family checklist, 9 pages. So if you're like Kara, if you're like me and you like checklists, it's there. You got everything you need. And I'm curious, so we've got the checklist, we've got all these things for you out there. Once you get to leasing the property, I know there's screening criteria out there, examples that you might lean on. How do you plan to approach? You mentioned using a leasing agent. Have you thought about things like screening criteria? What does my ideal client look like once I get to that point?
I have thought about it, and I will probably go back and look at some of those documents to look at some of the best practices and the do's and don'ts. I know that's been discussed in, various radio shows and case studies and things as well. And so, again, I'm all about learning from other people's experiences. And but I'm still a few months out from that as far as my properties being ready to rent. So I have not invested a ton of time into, deciding what those criteria will be just yet.
Yeah, but I think you have a great plan, finding a local realtor to help you through the process. Talk, obviously, with your network of members, see who they've used. Screening criteria on the tenant side, hugely, hugely important. I think that's equally as important as doing your due diligence when you buy the property, is doing your due diligence when you find somebody to put into that property. That will make your life a lot easier if you do that. Right. Now, you used a word in there. You said case study. So are you attending the sundry case studies in our various markets online from where you sit in Denver?
I am. I'm an avid case study attender.
Yeah. What goes on at a case study for the listener's sake?
Sure. So case studies are times where Lifestyles will host members who get up in front of the group and tell the details of their specific properties, whether it be a single family home or a multifamily community. And they'll go through from start to finish how they found the properties, kind of before and after, any lessons learned, bumps in the road, big successes, and so it's a great opportunity again to just see real life people, in real numbers, and it's wonderful how transparent they are, and they'll say, oh yeah, and this thing happened that we didn't anticipate, and so that cost us an extra, X number of dollars, but the good news is we were actually able to rent it for an extra $100 a month because of the rental increases that the market sustained. So it's really valuable.
Yeah, real people, real results, and that we have typically 2 single-family presenters on their projects. So, like you said, you get to see the number. We're very open book, which is helpful. Even to me, somebody 10 years in, I go to these, I listen, I like to see what people are up to, and I get inspired. That helps me keep rolling, helps me keep going. And if you're looking to do the multifamily side of things, well, guess what? Who's presenting? Typically, that's going to be our lead investors. Occasionally, our passive investors will get up and talk as well. But guess what? I want to know who those lead investors are. I want to know who I need to meet when I go to the Wealth and Passive Income Expo, if it's somebody from out of town. Now, you've mentioned the expo a few times. Pardon me, let me go back really quickly for the listener. If you want to learn more about the case studies, there is a website for that. It's LU, which stands for Lifestyles Unlimited, lucasestudy.com. You can see when we have those coming up, and you can register and attend those virtually. You can also follow us on Facebook and watch those there. Back to the expo, though. You've mentioned that a few times. First question, will you be coming to the one in Dallas next year?
Absolutely. I have already booked my hotel room.
Awesome. Hey, I look forward to meeting you there. We're really just meeting for the first time. So, hey, we'll meet, shake hands, exchange some stories. Tell us, too, you told us we did a great telling of the case study. What happens at the expo? What are the big takeaways for you typically? So,
again, the networking aspect is huge, both from a member standpoint with, if you're looking into the multifamily, either as a passive, meeting lead investors, or vice versa, lead investors meeting passive investors and helping the passives become comfortable with you as a lead or an aspiring lead, so that when you have an offering, you have a big list and book of people that want to invest with you. So I felt like that was very, very valuable. But also just the talk in the hallway amongst members, at meal times and before and after the sessions. And then I thought the sessions were really helpful as well in meeting some of the preferred vendors and some of the longtime lifestyles, kind of superstars, whether they be, super passives and how they've gotten to be as successful as they are, the realtor network, some folks that are doing single family, investments. It's just really, it's a whole smorgasbord of knowledge and gain. It's busy. Don't think you're going to have time to do anything else except attend the expo during expo days.
And there is a lot of education, right? There's a lot of knowledge sharing, but I think network I heard that out of you. You said that several times now, and that's the big thing, especially for you as somebody that is remote. This is a great opportunity. Thousands of investors in one place, the vendors that you mentioned, the lead investors, the passive investors, the single family investors, everybody that you really need to talk to, because network is hugely, hugely important. You joined in summer of 2021, but to go back to the start of COVID, which is when you guys moved to Denver, that was very important for us as investors as we tried to figure out what the heck was going on at that time in our lives. So great information. Again, for the listener, go to lifestylesunlimited.com. There's a link there for that event. So Kara, I look forward to meeting you at the expo. I'm glad you got the trip booked already. We got about 20, 30 seconds left. What's your long-term goal? What's the outlook?
Gosh, well, I'm so excited about the opportunities that Lifestyles presents. It's really given me an option and an education to that long-term financial freedom, and I can ramp up or scale back as I need to in complement to my personal, family home life. And so it's very exciting to be able to invest in myself and have the confidence to invest in myself, instead of my employer, and have my family and I reap all the gains and all the the benefit of those decisions and that hard work, instead of having to share them with another company.
You're taking control, financial freedom, using the network, all great things to close the show with. To the listener, remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Kara, thanks for joining us today. You have a great day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.